This one another video to pump out to my young boys, maybe girls. But no, today got a very important message for y'all. Today we're gonna be talking about protecting your peace in these times and what that look like. Now, those people who have a calling by the Most High, those who decided to walk the narrow path and following God's laws, statutes, and commandments, you know, we got a very important duty here on this here earth, and it comes with a lot of trials and tribulations, ups and downs. You know, your high highs, your low lows, all of that type of stuff. Really high highs and high lows. You know, once you get to a certain point, you know, even your lows is can be high points, and it's really a matter of, you know, your highs and lows is inevitable. You're gonna have your highs, you're gonna have your lows, but you wanna be high as much as you can, you know. You wanna be on the high point as much as you can. And you can avoid those lows just by doing certain things like protecting your peace. And what that looks like is a lot of different ways you can protect your peace. But it starts from what you put into your eye gates, because you know they say the eyes is the windows to the soul. And what you put into your ears, the things that you listening to, the things you hearing, and the things that you seeing. So all of these things play a part into, you know, the state of your spirit, which is going to determine if you are on a hot point or you on the low point. Now, so again, it's a lot of ways you can protect your peace, and again, it starts from your eyes and your ears. Now, when it comes to your eyes, obviously, that's the things that it is that you're seeing. So, when it comes to the things that you see, that's you fleeing from, you know, lust. That's you turning your eyes away from certain things like you on Instagram, and you scrolling and you start seeing, you start seeing thirst traps. You start seeing thirst traps. And you like, oh, that's what the enemy wants. The enemy wants you to sit up there and go down that rabbit hole and be like, oh, who is this? And he wants you to go on that girl page. He wants you to sit up there and start scrolling and looking at stuff, because what's that doing? That's essentially polluting your eye gates. That's essentially corrupting your spirit. You know, the Bible say if you commit adultery, you know, in your heart, you've already basically done the deed. So if you are feeding into these things, lusting after a woman who you don't even know, if you are lusting after a woman who you don't even know, then you are already essentially committing adultery. You setting yourself up for failure. You know, you setting yourself up to eventually be going on to some sites and going down a whole nother rabbit hole, which is sin and transgression against your body. And another thing, what's going into your ears? We're gonna be bouncing back and forth between the eyes and the ears. And the ears is obviously music. Have you seen how this Howard? Yeah, only a woman is. All right, we got somebody tweaking in there. I ain't even got no mods, but yeah, nah, it's what's going in your ears. Ears is obviously what you listening to, the music. If you sitting up there listening to rappers constantly talking about Pete, trying to think of a clean way to say it, but I might just not. I might just go all out. If you listening to a rapper talking about beating down Doonies and all of this type of stuff every other day or every day, because you know when it comes to the music, a lot of people, music is almost ritualistic to a lot of people. When you sit up there and get in the car, you immediately turn on music. You immediately going into the archives to find some kind of secular music to listen to. And if you listen to rappers talking about killing this one, shooting that one, having sex with this one, having sex with that one, these things is gonna continuously affect your psyche and it subconsciously affect your spirit. Your spirit is gonna get to a point where, slowly but surely through I'm trying to think of it. I'm trying to think of the word, but it's kind of like, I don't know if y'all seen that episode of Family Guy where it's like where the dude was like, "Ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy." That's what the devil is essentially doing. He leaving little drops of candy, and you continuously picking them up, not even realizing, the long term effects where this thing is leading you. Now, even if we stay on the candy analogy, you can eat a piece of candy and be fine, or you could eat 2 3 pieces and maybe be fine. But over time, these things have long-term effects on you. These have long-term effects on your teeth. If you eat candy every day, your teeth rot. So it's a similar thing to that. You sitting up there slowly but surely rotting your spirit by these little increments of doses of evil that you constantly taking in, and that's going from your eyes and your ears. If you starting to notice if you're starting to notice that you're continuously going down certain rabbit holes, like, again, let's go back to the Instagram. If you're starting to realize, I'm starting to log on to Instagram more than I usually do. If you're like, okay, I'm starting to log on to Instagram more than I usually do, and you're starting to catch your intentions of why you're actually logging on the Instagram, and you like, I'm really only going on here to see something that I know I'm not supposed to even be looking at. Every time you click on Instagram, you're gonna see some thirst traps. You're gonna see some cleavage. You're gonna see some shaking. Let's just call it for what it is. Every time you log on, you're gonna see that. So when you start subconsciously, without even thinking about it, going on there and you start scrolling, basically looking for what you gonna see, then you gotta you gotta pull yourself out of that rabbit hole. You gotta pull yourself out of that, because all that is doing is that's your appetite, that's your flesh essentially craving more. Your flesh is essentially seeking more instant gratification, more dopamine release, essentially. And that's all it is. You sitting up there frying your dopamine receptors by logging on, even Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. When you get the scrolling constantly, all of that stuff subconsciously is messing up your dopamine and your receptors of gratification. You being gratified by evil, essentially. So you got to pull yourself out of these rabbit holes when you noticing that you logging on Instagram too much, or you just doom scrolling and things like that. It might be time for you to delete the app for a while. It might be time for you to take that off your phone and completely ignore it, because you seeing that you got to pay attention to your own patterns. You got to pay attention to what how the devil is constantly working in your life, because Satan doesn't have any new tricks. He's going to continuously do the same thing over and over and expect you to continuously fall into it. Even if you look into, again, with Satan having no new tricks, the hot topic right now is the things that's going on in the industry, where these celebrities are dropping like flies. They dropping by the threes, and this same pattern has been continued for years and years and years and years. Satan is going to continue to do the same thing. You just got to be conscious enough to see how he's operating in your life, and how in your personal life he's continuing to do the same thing, and you got to start maneuvering around those traps that he's setting. So again, protecting your eyes by deleting your TikToks, deleting your Instagram for a while. If you're noticing that it's starting to have a negative effect, if you're starting to notice that you're not logging onto these apps with any kind of intentions, you are purposely, subconsciously, just brainlessly going on these apps, and you just start scrolling, or you just start looking for exactly what you're going to find. But exactly what you're not supposed to be even finding. So protect your eyes from that. Even in real life, it goes beyond Instagram. When you see, it's the summertime, when you see these chicks walking about with, barely dressed, you seeing cleavage, you seeing, everything else, that you know what you seeing. It's the summertime. Y'all know how these ladies is out here dressing. You know, you got to look away from that stuff. You got to not fall into the rabbit hole of, you know, fawning over these women. You see them and you like, damn, da 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 da. You see that, and you just watching her walk her entire walk from wherever she going to her car. All of that type of stuff is traps. You know, because you know what that's doing. That's again you piece of candy, piece of candy. You grabbing the piece of candy that's gonna eventually lead you to thinking. Once you sit up there staring at it for so long, now it's downloading into your brain. You gotta think about it like you're literally downloading that woman's outer appearance into your brain. You like the longer you staring at it, you just downloading the file. You downloading the whole image until now it's inside of your I forget the back part of your brain. It's the front part and then it's the back part. I think the back part is the subconscious, but you taking it and you basically storing it into your mind. Now you sit up there, go home later on, and it's in your brain, and not an enemy. Now Satan can use that. Now he can be like, you remember such and such earlier? That was crazy, wasn't it? Man, you ain't gonna see nothing like that unless, and then boom, next thing you know, now you on Instagram. Now you again scrolling, looking for something. And you know what that's gonna inevitably lead to? That's gonna inevitably lead you to one of them sites. And then next thing you know, you didn't relapse. It's over with. You didn't relapse just like that. So again, like when you see these people, when you see these chicks out and about dressed in any kind of way, you know, shorts all the way, going all the way up to, you know, they upper thigh, when the shorts basically look like drawers, you know, you got to look away. When the shorts basically look like drawers, you got to look away. You got to be like, nope, I already know what this is. This is a trap. This is a trap, and I'm not about to fall for it. Once you start having that mentality of, okay, this is set by the devil, let me sit up there and pay attention to something else. And what you do, you also essentially you do a service to yourself. Excuse me, you do a service to yourself, and you low key doing a service to humanity, because these women do these things for a reason. These women are they're practicing sex magic essentially. They doing these things to purposely harness y'all's energy. They purposely trying to harness y'all's masculine energy, harness y'all testosterone. They want to feel empowered by harnessing y'all spirit. So when you sit up there and pull away, and you like, man, I ain't looking at that. I ain't paying no attention to that. You could be low key planting the seed to her, to where she like, you know, subconsciously she like, damn, ain't nobody paying me no attention today when I just dressed like this. And you know, now she can have something to think about. Now she can be like, okay, you know, you just never know. You know, the Most High can work in a lot of different ways, but if you just think like, if more men had this way of thinking, where it's like, okay, I'm not even about to pay this no attention. I'm about to look away. I see you walking up with everything hanging out. Nope, we ain't even looking. She gonna feel crazy. She gonna sit up there and go home and be like, damn, I just did this for no reason. And now she got some reflecting to do. And you know, you can sit up there and save other people from sitting up there falling into the trap. But it got to start somewhere. Regardless, it got to start somewhere. And that's how you're going to essentially protect your peace. You're going to be essentially, you know, able to keep your sexual energy, not be sitting up there wasting your seed on just any and everything. Because even that's just the rabbit hole of if you battling with corn addiction, masturbation, stuff like that. Now, if you could be battling with whoremongering. You could be one of those guys that's taking it a step further, and every time you see something hanging out, you walking up trying to shoot your shot, or you walking up actually trying to take this down or something like that. And you know, that's the biggest red flag off rip. If you see the girl walking around with everything hanging out, then you already know you in for a world of trouble if you sit up there and deal with her, because you just ultimately fell into the trap. You super fell into the trap. There's not a lot of jobs in this world. Maybe we need to stop blaming the demon for a human mistake in this world. Okay, well, The Bible say that we battle not against flesh and blood, but wickedness and principalities in high places. So the battle is always going to be against demons and spirits. But yeah, and essentially another thing, the company you keep, protecting your peace revolves around the company that you keep. And that's a that's a good segue into what I'm talking about. We don't battle against flesh and blood. We battle against principalities and wickedness in high places. We're battling. The battle is a spiritual battle. This is a spiritual war against actual demons. Demons that can inhabit people all around you every single day. Demons is jumping into people and causing them to essentially, crash out, do whatever it is they do. Whether that be speaking death, when you around certain people and they not walking a certain way and they not on the road less traveled like you are, demons can jump in these people. They can sit up there and speak and literally speak death. Like if you ever been around somebody who every time you sit up there and try to say something positive, every time you sit up there, not even necessarily say something positive, but you could be around somebody who you want, essentially you got an idea or you got a plan or something that you want to do in the future or whatever. Like you got a endeavor that you want to go on. And that person is always shooting down your ideas, shooting down your goals, shooting down your ambitions. That's a person who is being demon possessed. That person is literally being inhabited by a spirit that's trying to speak death over your life, speak death over your goals. It's those people who be like, nah, you can't do that. People who always smacking their lips to everything that you saying. If you saying like you got an idea, something that's positive or whatever, something that you want to pursue or do, and they smacking their lips, you can tell they're visibly uncomfortable by you basically trying to thrive at something. Those is people who are being demon possessed. Those are people who are literally being hacked. And that's why the scriptures tell us in 2 Corinthians 6:14, do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? So the dark can't fellowship with the light. It just simply don't work. If you get to talking about building and doing something productive around people who are in the dark, then they're gonna sit up there and feel a type of way. They're gonna feel a type of way about your righteous conversation. They're gonna feel a type of way about you wanting better for yourself. Because anytime you want better for yourself, you holding up a mirror to them and showing them where they fell short at. You showing them they shortcomings and showing them that they essentially couldn't take the same path that you took. So let me see what you're talking about. So you said P. Diddy or anybody else is controlled by demon to do bad things. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Kevin, you clearly unlearned. If you don't think Diddy is being hacked by demons and controlled by demons, yes, see the thing is, and this is why, again, you just ignorant. You don't understand. But this is exactly what we're talking about in this conversation. We're talking about how we open ourselves up to demonic possession by the things that we do. But that doesn't take away the fact that the demons are actually the ones in control. The demons are the actual ones that's working. Now, there's people who purposely open themselves up to demonic possession, and there's people who do it subconsciously or they do it unknowingly. Like I was just saying, when it comes to Instagram, when you sit up there, before you even get to the part where you want a corn site and you sitting up there choking your chicken, beating off or whatever, when you in that moment doing that, trust and believe you are being demon possessed in that moment. You are being taken over by a demon for sure. But everything that led up to that point, you were still under demonic influence, but it was little things incrementally that led you all the way to that point where you were just completely, you gave your body up to the devil. And that's where post-nut clarity and all of that stuff come from. You sitting up there, as soon as you don't question why after you sit up there and do the deed, you come out of it feeling like, why did I just even do that? Like, what even happened? Why did I do that? Like, why I need to stop doing this? Why am I doing this? That's because you were literally hacked by a demon on the most extreme level. Everything, like God chose the son just said, everything happens in the spiritual first before it manifests in the physical. So by you sitting up there giving your giving your eyes up to giving your eyes to these women on Instagram, giving your eyes to these women in real life, fawning over them, doing all of the things it is that you're doing, that's you. That's you subconsciously opening yourself up for demonic possession. That's you opening yourself up for a demon to take over. When you sit up there listening to Kill, Steal, and when you listening to your music, it's talking nothing about drilling. It ain't talking about nothing but drilling and banging somebody girl and doing all of this type of stuff. You're opening yourself up to demonic possession. The eyes is the windows to the soul. Your ears, the same thing basically. The things you put inside of here and here is going to determine how you maneuver through your life. So yeah, that's definitely what we're saying. If you're talking about Diddy, Diddy definitely probably, Diddy is cool with his demons. Some people is married to they demons. Some people is got personal handshakes with their demons. They that tight. Some people want the demon, invites the demons in. They want the demons to take over because they are evil. That's what happens. But yeah, like, we're not trying to take away accountability from a person doing what it is that they're doing. We're saying that if we're actually holding them accountable, because we're saying that if you do such an A, B, C, D, and C, A, B, C, and D, then these are the results you're gonna get. These are the results you're gonna get from not protecting your peace in these early states and protecting that light and protecting that spirit. If you ain't protecting your energy and protecting your spirit, then yes, demons are going to inhabit you and demons are gonna run amok in your life. That's just how it goes. So, you gotta just sit back and learn. You gotta just sit back and learn. But yeah, we got some more scriptures again. If you talking about when it comes to protecting your peace, again, setting healthy boundaries is important. Setting healthy boundaries is very, very important. A lot of the times in life, we have moments where we need to, recharge. We have moments where we need to take a step back and recharge our energy. We got to go into the hyperbolic time chamber. We got to get in our word. We got to, study to show ourselves approved. And, we got to, we just got to get right. We got to get aligned. And, you'll have people who feel entitled to, your essence, feel entitled to your energy, feel entitled to your presence. When you understand, a lot of the times, the chosen ones, we understand that if we give ourselves to everybody, then we won't have nothing for ourselves. So we value our alone time. We value our solitude. And a lot of people will be like, oh, that's weird, that's this, that's that. But that's only because they live a life where they live their life to appease to others. They live their life to be accepted by others. They live a life to where they want to be validated by others all the time. So when they see somebody who doesn't care about being validated by another person, being accepted by another person, and only caring about their relationship with the Most High, that's off-putting to them. The Bible also talk about how the dark can't comprehend the light. It's not meant for them to understand you. It's not meant for them to comprehend your ways or how you move. It's just beyond their comprehension. It wasn't meant for them to see it. And you got to understand that. So what that means, don't explain yourself. Don't waste your time explaining yourself to people who are never going to understand you. My brother, God's chosen son, in the building, he was telling me it was a guy who was saying one time, he was saying that a dude was basically saying, like, he was like, I think he was basically clowning people who explain themselves after they say no. Long story short. And he was saying, respect that no like you respect that yes. When people be talking to you or they ask you something and you say yes, they don't ever ask you, well, why did you say yes? You don't get that. You know why? Because they respecting your yes. They respect the yes because the yes is in favor for what they want. But when you say no, and people be like, why? Why this? Why that? Why you saying no? You got to tell people you need to respect that no the same way you respect that yes. I don't got to explain anything to you. No means no. I don't have to tell you why I said no. The same way I would never tell somebody why I said yes. Nobody has ever asked. I don't think nobody in history. I ain't gonna say never in history, but you get what I'm saying. At least in my life personally, and I'm sure in a lot of y'all's life too. You ain't never heard nobody say, "Well, why did you say yes?" When you be like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Why? Nobody questions why you say yes. But as soon as you say no, it's always why this, why that, how come. They want to get an explanation as to why you saying no. You got to tell them no, respect that no the same way you respect that yes. I'm not explaining nothing to you. No means no, I don't want to do it. It don't even got to be I don't want to do it. It's just I'm not doing it. That's all it is to it. That's the only information you need. I'm not doing it. And you gotta be on that time. You gotta be strong arming people like that. Well, stiff arming people like that. You gotta be like, no, no. Especially if it comes to something that's gonna interrupt your peace. If it comes to people that's trying to weasel into your life who don't deserve to be there, and you know that they don't deserve to be there, people who already showed you that they don't respect you, they don't respect your energy, they don't respect your essence, they don't respect you as a human or who you are, they don't respect your spirit and your spiritual authority. You got to sit up there and you got to stiff arm them. You got to be like, well, no, cut. Your cutoff game got to be lethal. Your cutoff game got to be lethal. It got to be on point. You got to be able to walk away from people and don't look back, because if they already showed you who they are, you got to believe them. And in a lot of cases, one of the things that in a lot of cases, those people, when they do you wrong, they did it intentionally. They did it intentionally. A lot of people out here is really energy harvesters. A lot of people is really out here just the energy harvest off of the chosen ones. And, based off their own spiritual deficiencies and them knowing they're not capable of, doing the things that it is that you do, instead of walking the narrow path with you, instead of trying to, not even necessarily with you, but walking down their own narrow path and going on their own journey to see who they really are, they want to essentially take your light from you. And again, that's where you get into people who have wicked conversation. That's where you get into people who shoot down your dreams, who shoot down your ideas, who try to force you into certain boxes, who try to force you into being a certain person that you just simply aren't. A lot of y'all got, have parents. I know I got a younger audience. Some of y'all got parents who try to force their lifestyles on you, who try to, try to push you into certain directions that's just simply not your path. And, when people are doing these things, you just got to, again, protect your peace. You got to just understand that it's another force. It's a spirit that's working on these people. You don't battle against flesh and blood. You battle against wickedness and principalities in high places. And if the devil can't get to you, trust and believe he's going to use the people closest to you. He's going to use those who's around you. You got to understand, if somebody is not walking the same path you're walking, then they are susceptible to be hacked. They are fully capable of being hacked, just like anybody else. They're gonna get hacked. It's not even a matter of if they're gonna get hacked. It's when they're gonna get hacked, because they're gonna get hacked. The enemy is gonna jump into them, and they're gonna do something or say something to throw your peace off. And that's, again, and right now in the current state we is in society, the chosen ones is spread out far and in between. We got a spiritual family for sure, and those who know already know. But in the meantime, before we get to actually come together and stay amongst one another, we got to be in a society where we're gonna be arms reach away from somebody who's capable of being hacked by a demon at any moment. That's just what it is. And you can try to alleviate that as much as possible, but these people are like moths to a flame, or yeah, moths to a flame. They're like insects. They're gonna gravitate towards the light. They're gonna sit up there and find some kind of way to get closer to you. They're gonna find a way to try to nuzzle their way close to you. And you just gotta take it for what it is. And you gotta maneuver as such. Don't cast your pearls among swine. That's how you avoid those things. If you know that that person has a track record of shooting down your goals, shooting down your dreams, shooting down your ambitions, then you should probably start keeping your dreams, goals, and ambitions to yourself. You should probably try to find, or if you ain't got nobody, just keep it to yourself. But keep that stuff for people who are gonna feed off of that positivity and actually pour back into you. Don't sit up there and keep telling somebody who's shooting your dreams down what you're doing just so they can accept you. A lot of people get caught in that rabbit hole of trying to be, accepted, because these people is probably close to you. It could be a significant other, could be your family, friends, whatever. And you want these people to accept you, or see the vision, or see the light, or whatever. But again, we're going back to the dark can't comprehend the light. They're never gonna understand what it is what the frequency that you on. They're never gonna understand what it is that you're talking about. So until you see that person turning their life around, and you see them starting to live a lifestyle that seeks repentance, and you starting to see them peel open their word and get into their scriptures and really try to, learn who the Most High is, you got to just play them as what they are. You got to accept them for who they are and play them the same, play them in that same way. So let me see if we got some more scriptures. This is Hebrews 10:24-25. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. So yeah, those people who are shooting your goals and dreams down, they not living by this. They not living by trying to encourage you, or start, or trying to spread love and show that they doing good deeds. It's just not happening. And this is another one. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So a person that's shooting down your goals, shooting down your ambitions, they're not coming on that timing where they're trying to build. If they had a critique or something with what you're talking about, then it's a way you do that. What you got to pay attention to, don't let nobody fall into, well, you personally, don't fall into the trap of taking somebody trying to destroy your dreams as them critiquing it, or them trying to critique or give you healthy criticism. What healthy criticism looks like is the concept of build, break, build. If you told me that you want to open up a business for, I don't know, cleaning paintings, just something, let's just say something something outlandish, or something that don't really make a lot of sense. You want to clean paintings, and I just say, that's dumb as hell. Why would you want to do that? Woo woo woo. Or I say, that don't sound very smart. Why would you want to do something like that? That's kind of like, that's negative on negative. But the proper way, if somebody is really genuinely with pure intentions trying to critique what you got going on, they'll do something called build, break, build. They'll build it up like, okay, that don't sound like a he'll say, that sounds like a very unique idea. I haven't heard of nothing like that. That's interesting. But I will say, you ain't even gotta say but. But I'll say, I have, with something being so niche, have you ever seen people say anything about wanting to clean paintings? I don't really think that'd be that profitable, just because how much are people actually willing to pay to get you to want to clean a painting? And how often do you think you're gonna find people that's gonna be willing to do that? But that is a very unique idea, and I say if you just tweak it a little bit, then I think it'd be something that you could actually, a niche that you could actually fit into, something like that. I'm just going off the cuff, but you get what I'm saying. It's a build, break, build process. You want to build something up, try to give them some kind of positivity first, then you can throw in your critique, whatever it is that you got to say that may be where your concerns lie, and then finish with a building process. That's constructive criticism. That's a build, break, build. That's constructive. That's iron sharpening iron. That's you using your voice to actually push this person in the right direction, or you want to keep this person in a positive direction. A lot of people, when I say speaking death upon others, they just come in straight negative. They just come in, you can't do that, that won't work, that's retarded, why is you doing that? They're just coming straight negative at y'all. And when you really got to watch out for people like this. You really got to keep these people a good distance away from you. People like to say, keep your friends closer, your enemies closer. That's malarkey. You want your enemies to be far away from you, because your enemies can lead to your destruction. Your enemies is fully capable, again, of being hacked by Satan himself and taking you out at some point. Because they hate the idea of you thriving, of you going to your higher calling, you going to your higher purpose, and internally their whole mission is to keep you exactly where they at. Especially if you somebody who's coming from a lifestyle where you were on the same level as these people once upon a time. They're gonna want to sit up there and keep you at the exact same level as you were at before, because again, when you shine in that light, you're putting up a mirror to this person and showing them that they got some work to do. And nobody wants to sit up there and feel like they got work to do. That's torture to them. You got to understand that is torture to these people. And they will want to take you out because of that. You are literally setting their whole existence ablaze. You are reminding them that they got work to do. They got to get closer to the Most High. And, everybody also knows subconsciously where we're at as far as in these times, where we at in this timeline. Everybody can acknowledge that the world is going downhill, that things are getting worse and worse and worse by, each and every day. So you really are irritating them on a whole nother level than you even understand, because time is of essence. Time is short, and everybody is running out of it. So when you sit up there and you showing them, hey, it's time to get right. You see that, this is what they saying. You see I'm getting right. Time is running out. You better put that work in. You better put those vices down. You better stop watching that corn. You better stop smoking that weed every day. You better stop the alcoholism. These are the things that you continuously remind them. And that's literally irritating them. That's irritating their spirits. So instead of them getting right, the path of least resistance to them is to try to keep you on that same level so you can stop shining that light, or, take you out altogether so they can completely diminish the light. And yeah, that's how people are moving. That's how people are moving. Let me see if I got any more scripts. Yeah. I think that's about it. But yeah, man, protecting your peace is very, very important. Protecting your peace is very important. Watching the things that you look at. It may seem harmless in the moment, but it's a spiritual warfare that we fighting. It's a spiritual warfare that we fight. And I had to stop watching certain YouTubers, because certain YouTubers or content creators, they'll be entertaining and all of that. But nowadays it seems like a lot of content creators just gotta have like women on they streams and in their videos and stuff. And these women, they be looking good, but it be more to it, because when you sit up there and actually look into these chicks, a lot of the times these dudes be having OnlyFans models and stuff in their videos. You know, this is kind of like a tangent, but not for real. These dudes be having OnlyFans models and all sorts of stuff in their videos, and these women are giving off an energy even through the screen. Like our phones, what you gotta understand is our phones is portals. These phones are gateways into a whole nother thing. Like the way, and you know, somebody who's not really on that level of thinking, you know, no shade, be like, what you mean your phone is a portal? But even if you think about, again, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but you think about corn, right? When you are in that act and you're watching what you're watching, you feel like you're somehow there, right? That's because the whole thing is a spiritual. You're taking your spirit and you're literally putting it into this portal, and you are commingling demonic spirits, basically. And these women, they have a energy. They have like an energy, an essence where even when these guys sit up there and take these OF models, who's practicing all sorts of witchcraft behind the scenes, once they take these women who practicing witchcraft, practicing sex magic and all of this stuff, and they platform them and they put them on y'all screens for y'all to sit up there and see, and it's an energy there. It's an energy that's being cultivated, and that's where that spirit sit up there and latch on to you and have you going and doing some digging and doing some research to where you like, oh, I gotta see who this is. I gotta find this person. And then next thing you know, you on their platform. Next thing you know, you go into their Instagram. Next thing you know, you seeing they got a link in their bio. I'm just calling it for what it is. You see it's a link in that bio. You clicking the link, and now you in a whole nother rabbit hole. It really, but it started. You know where it started? It started from that content creator who took that succubus spirit, who took that demon, and then platformed them and put them in the forefront for millions of eyes to see, millions of people to see. And so the cycle can continue. So the cycle can just keep on going. And you know, it start from just even that point. So even with these content creators y'all gotta watch out for them, because they'll sit up there and have you in a rabbit hole. They'll sit up there and y'all wonder why these people be so famous, why these people be able to blow up and make millions and millions of dollars, is because they're nuzzling their way into big content creators platforms, and they are getting on there and getting the eyes of all of these people, and they harvesting a lot of energy from all of these people. But you know, that's a whole nother conversation for real. Really is not, but you know, everything is everything, so it all applies. But that's the video, man. Protect your eyes, protect your ears, protect your peace. You know, continue to walk down the path. Don't mix the light with the dark, and you know, it's all gonna work out. Just continue to protect your energy, and the Most High is going, you know, you're gonna be vindicated. You're gonna get vindicated from all of the trials and tribulations. You just got to stay the course and do not fall back into your old ways. Do not fall back into that temptation. You got to value, you know, the streaks that y'all are on. You know, I know some of y'all probably on streaks, you know, no fap streaks, non-smoking streaks, non-drinking streaks, whatever it is you on, just stay the course. Anything that you feel it can be a gateway to making you double back, you got to cut all of that stuff off. You can't be out here spiritually talking about, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy. Once you notice that you done picked up 2 pieces of candy or 3, you know, you got to start rerouting. You got to be like, hold on, I done been here before. You got to be able to double back and be like, I done been here before. No, we not going down this route. I see you. You gotta be telling the devil, like, I see you. And we not doing that. We not doing that. We not turning. We not going back. So that's the video for today, man. Actually, it's not the video for today. I actually got to come back on here. I'm finna come back on here and do some reacting. So, you know, I got more content coming up. Make sure y'all tap back in. That's the video for right now. Love y'all. Take care. Stay safe. I'm on y'all boys. It's that reality.